Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon for the ones in Europe, and good morning for the ones overseas. It's nice to always see some familiar faces, so thank you also to turning on your cameras. It's nice to be connected like this. We have registered over 60 persons today. We are to the half. So I would say, to the respect of everyone and our host today, Mathieu, we will start. Talking about familiar faces, Mathieu is one of our previous CIBP Link participants. We met a few years ago, right, for the 10th cycle, and I see other colleagues of Mathieu joining today. So thank you for the support and for being with us today. Mathieu, thank you for suggesting this topic about the Agile mindset. I will leave you the word to say a little bit more why you chose that angle, more on the mindset than on the IT side. The floor is yours. We are curious to hear from you. And thank you again for hosting this new season Spark before the end of the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Valeria, and good morning for some, and good afternoon for the rest. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you some of our experiences. So the goal of the presentation of today is to show you, based on our experience, that the principles behind Agile can be also used it can be used in different areas. Traditionally, Agile was a methodology used by developers, but the principles can be used also in other fields. During this presentation, maybe I will disappoint some people, but during this presentation, I will not say or state how you have to organize a product development department or a project to develop a new product, but I will try to explain the main ideas behind agility and how they can be deployed in a context of, for instance, product development. So this is so the presentation. I will give some examples just to give you a feeling of what's agility about. Then I will go to the Bible. That's the Agile Manifesto that was been written in 2001. I will share some experiences our experience at the bank CPH, and then also some food for thought, how it can be applied in a product development environment. A small introduction. So I'm Mathieu Desmet. I'm member of the management board of bank CPH, and I'm in charge of IT and payments within the management board. Probably, as you know, Bank CPH is a Belgian bank. We are a relatively small Belgian bank, but nevertheless, we apply the Agile methodology, and our first project was a large project with the Agile methodology was the new mobile application. But we already did some other realizations like online demand for personal loans, a new client portal that we call My CPH, the client onboarding, an electronic e-logement means that an electronic mortgage loan, a full digital process for the demand, and we are still developing it. So whole digitalized process for mortgage loans. And another big project is the re-engineering of the internal core application. So the application used by our employees, we also apply over there the Agile methodology. So here you see Apple, Google, and Spotify. And yeah, they have a lot of things in common. They became very big companies, and 20 years ago, maybe Apple was already there, and Google as well. But now they become, they are everywhere. Also, Spotify has become a very important application. But what they have in common is that they also apply the Agile methodology. Agile methodology is one of the key success factors, not the only, and there are also other reasons, but they all apply in one way or another the Agile methodology. But the Agile methodology is not something new, it's not something very exotic. And in reality, we apply it, we have already been applying it. So I give you an example. So I think it's something that we all have experienced. We start the preparation period for the exams, and we have 4 courses to study. We have 1 or 2 weeks, and we have to try to pass 5 exams. But then the objective, and it was in my case, my objective was to pass the 5 exams, not to try to have 20 out of 20 for one exam and not participate at the others. No, the objective was to pass all the exams. So that's the objective. We have a limited amount of time, so then you have to prioritize. So, okay, for this course, I will try to study this looks to me the most important thing. For this course, that. And so we make a planning, short-term planning, because we only have 2 weeks, maybe a planning, and we do prioritization. Maybe all the details, okay, maybe we'll study the details when we will have time, but we try to learn the essential of each course and to have an objective. Okay, we want to pass all the exams, maybe not cum laude, but in the first place, just have 12 out of 20 for all the courses. So agility is something very natural and we already apply it, but we don't. That's something in other contexts. That's an approach that's not always used in other contexts. In agility, so prototyping is something in the car industry, it's very common. When they make a new model, they make a prototype, and then it's more see, okay, does it work? And then from prototype, they start production, and then it becomes a product. In agility adds a new kind of concept. Well, new, it's not so new, but it adds a concept of a minimal viable product. What's the minimum product that we can offer to clients that fulfills the needs of the clients? So then here in this case, you can say, okay, we make a prototype of a donut. We start with the donut who has some good flavor, and then maybe the final product will be a colored donut. But let's already start and not already selling donuts without any color. And that's really also something, a concept of Agile is the concept of a minimal viable product. So offering already something which is working in order to get the feedback of the users. And there are some famous examples. For instance, Airbnb 2007, that was really a minimal viable product. If we compare Airbnb with now there are a lot of more functionalities within it. The same with Uber and an MVP. So it starts an iterative process, and they have improved everything every 3 weeks or 6 weeks of every cycle. They have improved the product. So the concept of a minimal viable product is also something which is inherent in Agile. Another comparison between a traditional way of attacking a problem and an Agile way. So a car, you can say, okay, we want to make a car. A traditional process is, okay, we do a lot of analysis, and then, okay, here it's a cartoon, but it shows the difference between traditional and Agile approach. We have some wheels, a chassis, and then at the end of the project, we have a car, and then it's only from that point of view, from that point, that we have user feedback. From an Agile perspective, it's okay. A car, what's the goal of a car? A car should bring person A from person X from A to B. Okay, maybe before building a car, let's build a skateboard. Okay, put someone on a skateboard, the person will give some feedback. Okay, let's step a cycle, a motorcycle, and a car. So it's a process where Agile is a process where we iterative process where user feedback or client feedback is already used and asked at the beginning of the process. Here it's more a schematic overview of the traditional waterfall and the agile methodology. So a traditional project, there is a scope, a fixed scope, a lot of documentations, and then based on a fixed scope, the number of resources are estimated and the time that will be needed is also estimated. With Agile and Agile, you can say we put it in the other way around. I give you the example of the student who has to study, who has to study. So okay, study. So there is only the student has one resource and he has only 1 or 2 weeks. But then he has to decide, okay, what will I study? It will be impossible to study all the material, so or to go into detail into all the material. He has to take the student has to take some decisions. Okay, I will do this in detail. This I will through it very fast, and this I will skip. So that's in a traditional project. The scope is fixed, and in terms of the scope, we or the resource and the time are estimated. In an agile process, we say, okay, we are in one iteration. In one iteration, we have X resources and we have Y time, and then based on that, we will say, okay, in this iteration, we will do this. In 2001, there was a group of IT developers who were not really happy with the traditional way of projects, how projects were managed, and they made an agile manifesto. And there are 12 points here. I made a summary of those 12 points, and there are from those 12 points we can group them in four major items. First of all, an agile collaboration is important. It's more important. The interaction between individuals is more important than processes and tools. People who are thinking, who are discussing, is really important. Focus on delivery. Something which is working is more important than a documentation, because documentation can have a very beautiful documentation, but what's really the most important thing is working product. Documentation is important, but a result is even more important. The user experience, it's very important to build something around the user. And if you build something around the user or around a client, you should get as soon as possible the feedback of that client. And then the last point is flexibility. Maybe one of the not the most important, but maybe agility is and most times linked with flexibility. It's the ability to respond to change over following a plan. You can say, okay, I fixed a plan from now to 2025, but what we experience now with the current inflation crisis and energy crisis, we're living in a fast-moving world, so flexibility is very important. And if you work in iterations, after each iteration, we can change the triangle. We can change the scope of the next iteration. If you are in a fixed project with a long-term planning, then it's very difficult to be responsive to change. As I explained in the beginning of the presentation, we have been applying the agile methodology already for some years, and what we experienced in the beginning is that it's not easy to convince the stakeholders of the benefit of this mindset, because that's something new. People think, okay, it will never work, and how we work today, it's already the good way of working. But when we had convinced the stakeholders, we have seen that there was a better alignment between the business needs or the needs of the clients or the users due to the constant involvement of the business. If there is a request or if we have to develop something and we make a demo or there is a small tool, we see that's very useful to have immediate feedback from the user on what he is seeing. So that's another benefit that we saw was that by doing this and say, okay, we have to we put resources and the time as a fixed, and we have to see what we can do in that time frame. Then we really, by asking the good questions, we can really focus on the essential, and then say, okay, we do first the essential, and then the things that are less urgent. And then the third point is that the flexibility. We have experienced, unfortunately, some unforeseen circumstances, and then because we were working in iteration, we were able to quickly respond to that changes. We also had to change a bit the organization, not in terms of departments, but in terms of ownership. And Agile, it's important to say, okay, there is a product owner and a business owner. It also needs high involvement of the business owner. So it's not like traditional project where the business owner is making the specifications, and then maybe 6 months later, one year later, he will come back and then doing a test. No, it's important to have, it's crucial to have their involvement at each stage of a project. And also another point is to challenge their priorities. So, okay, what's really what is the most important thing? What should be done first? And then that's also something at the beginning it was not difficult, but then after some time it becomes something natural. Another thing was that there are around Agile, there is a whole industry, a whole commercial thing, and there are a lot of what Agile gurus call rituals, a daily meeting, weekly meeting, retro meeting, etc. So a lot of things are proposed. There, it's really important to find a good equilibrium. I think, for instance, in a team, in a small team, a daily meeting is really very useful, but sometimes it's and maybe another team, a weekly meeting is enough. So there you have to find a good level of rituals, of meetings, of formal things. And then the last point was that that's linked with the fact that challenges are priorities are challenged. That means that also that sometimes decisions has to be made to say, okay, this problem or this issue, this will be dealt in the future. Meaning that, okay, we have to take the risk that we do this within 2 months. So that's also something, it's very natural to try to, before starting, try to analyze and try to solve all the problems. With an Agile, it's more say, okay, we have this, start with this, we solve this problem, and then when this is solved, we take another one. So this was also something which we experienced. And then Agile does not mean that everything is open and we don't have a vision. No, it's very important to have a vision, but it just to give a rhythm. And there, the rhythm of the iterations, there it's important to maintain that rhythm. So we have a rigid timing from the sprints. And then within the sprint, the scope can be different, but the timing of a sprint should be fixed. And then the resource allocation in a sprint, so a sprint is a cycle, as one iteration. We call it a sprint as one iteration. And within an iteration, people can be added, people can go on holiday, or they only participate half of it, half of the sprint. And another point was that there is a difference between the project objective and the scope of a sprint. It's very important to have an objective to say, okay, that's what we want to have, but then per sprint we fix the scope, and that scope is only fixed at the beginning of a sprint, not in the middle or not at the but at the beginning of each sprint we fix the objective. I see it in terms of time. So the pitfalls of agility. Agility is not something a silver bullet that will solve all the things. No, it's more about an attitude. It's not a science. Agility itself may not be too rigid. We have to stay agility in their agility. So keep it simple is very important. Agility does not mean that we need don't any vision anymore. No, vision with a concrete main objective remain crucial. Within agility, work in iterations is crucial. It's impossible to be agile to say, okay, now all that stuff with iterations and sprints, I don't do that. I just apply agility without it. That doesn't work. Open and conservative mindset of all stakeholders is also important, because if somebody is saying, okay, I don't, I gave you the specification, and if you have a question, please solve the question by yourself, then it will be very difficult. And then agility makes oblige us also to make some decisions, but then that's maybe also a fear. Well, I already say that things have to be prioritized, and we have to take the risk to do things later on. So for some people, they don't really comfortable with that to say, okay, this problem, we solve this problem in the future. But the benefits are proven. Lower time to deliver, because that's by definition a higher involvement of stakeholders, which by the end of the project will lead to less rework. Focus on essential. An important point is also the constant pace of progress. Since we work in iteration, each iteration has an objective, not too big, but an objective. So there is, instead of having a traditional project with a lot of stress at the end of the project, here, if you work in iterations, there is a constant pace. And then flexibility and adaptability at all stages is also a very big advantage. In traditional project, at the beginning of a project, there is a lot of uncertainty, and then a lot of things are analyzed, requirements are made, and by the end of the project, certainty becomes lower. However, we are living in a very volatile world with a lot of uncertainty. So things, suppose there's also a timeline, things that were now interest rates. The interest rates 1 year ago, they were almost negative in Europe. Now we have interest rates of 2, 3, 4, maybe more %. So we were living in a totally different world now. So if you had launched a project 1 year ago just to for a term deposit, for instance, but the context has changed. So okay, uncertainty is lower. So uncertainty about specifications is lower here, but the world has evolved. So the traditional project development makes it very difficult to deal with an environment where volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity is inherent. That's the reality now. But next to flexibility, the focus on user experience is also crucial. So the initial engineers who had developed the bottle of Heinz ketchup, I think they were very smart. They say, okay, it should be in glass. We should put it. We should be able to put it on racks, and for transport, that's really important. But in terms of user experience, that bottle that was or is not really the best user experience. If you use a plastic bottle with in English, with a dop and that you can press it, that's much easier to use. So it's not only should not only involve experts and think about the process. It's really very important to also involve the users, the clients, and how they will use the product. Here is another example of say, okay, we can say, okay, we make a design, we think that people will go in the park and we make a road to that, but then we see in reality that people, they want to go from point A to B. Here they want to go to the end of that street. So it makes no sense, or it would make better sense either to make maybe 2 roads or to put a road towards the direction that people want to go. So here it's I'm already in the conclusion. More or less, I think I have to finish the presentation. But like in Darwinism, Darwinists say that's not only it's not really the biggest animals or the most beautiful animals that will survive. the animals that are able to adapt to change will survive. And that's something which is inherent in agility, that ability to change. Agility has been used by more than 20 years. At the beginning, it was an IT tool, but gradually it has been used in other contexts. We see the example of the big techs that are deploying, that are already using that methodology. So if I come back to the title, and I said at the beginning of the presentation, I will not give you solutions, but it's more just to try to explain you the principles behind agility. Well, even in product development, if you want to develop a product, even knowing that in a banking environment, a lot of products are highly regulated, but doesn't mean that we should not try to focus on the essential first. It's very important to have an active involvement of the users, of the clients at the early stage. Why not working in iterations? Why not say, okay, let's launch this product, maybe not with a lot of, maybe we won't do a campaign, a publicity campaign on it, but we already launch at a given to some clients to get their feedback on that. So these are also principles that can be used within a product development environment. So focus on the essential, involve the clients and the users at the beginning of the stage, and being open to change. And that's really what we experience now. We are I still remember that 6 months ago, people were complaining if they had their loan reviewed, that they didn't get a low rate. Now we see the other way around. So things are really changing a lot. So it's important to have that openness to change. Thank you for your attention, and I don't know whether there are questions or remarks. I suppose that Valeria will send the presentation and send within the presentation also my contact details. So if there are no questions now, but I suppose there will be some questions, but if you are not able to raise your questions here during presentation, you can always send me an email and I will try to respond to that. So thank you all for your attention.
Thank you, Mathieu.
Mathieu, I do believe that there's a question in the chat.
Yeah, there is actually a question, if you refer to mine. My name is Heiko. And Mathieu, first of all, thanks for sharing your experiences. Of course, that's great, and also great to see you again. But on the very first or second page, you told us that you also are working on core bank projects with agile methods. And I just wonder, I mean, if you're a fintech or so, and you're just starting doing business, obviously you can do it with kind of MVP approach, because I mean, you will start with one product maybe, and you can learn and just build more software if the demand is there or not. But I mean, given that you're a full-size bank and a full, I mean, you have all the products. And if you're building a new core bank system, I mean, you have all the products, you have the requirements for accounting, for supervisory reports. You may even have requirements in terms of time. So what are your thoughts on this situation then, and why did you opt for agile methods, like when working on core bank systems? And I have to add that since I'm so far away from IT, maybe we are doing it as well, but I simply don't know. So.
Mm-hmm. So your question is that why using Agile in an environment that's well documented, and then is that your question? Why using an Agile well, documentation, it all depends. That documentation, maybe that's written 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Is that documentation still aligned with the business needs? So it doesn't mean documentation does not mean that that documentation is still valuable. Maybe 80% is valuable, but I think it makes sense just to say, okay, that's the current product, that's the current, because and for a banking system, we have something which is working. So we can say, and that's maybe the old vision, say, okay, if you want to change technology, so okay, that's the application today, and you just make a copy of that application. And that's not so difficult. But is the application today fully aligned with the needs of the user? So Agile is instead of just blindly copy the current application, say okay, we know more or less what it has to do, but maybe it's good just to challenge what's the most crucial thing, and then it's not only developing a new tool, but also maybe thinking about the process. Okay, the application, that part we do it manually, or that's maybe intervention of that team. And then if you ask why do they intervene, well, I don't know anymore, because it has been so it's more than, it's really that challenging process. So that's but that's at the given moment you have to say, okay, no, we just copy and we just do it by like we did before, but we imply that challenge to say, okay, if it's why do you do that? And if they and it's really, if you ask people a question and they're using a tool for 10 years, I say, okay, why do that way? It's okay, we already done it that way. We haven't been thinking about simplifying it, and so that's the reason why we also apply agility on rewriting an existing system with between brackets documentation. Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, thanks.
Yeah. Other questions? Thank you for your question, Heiko. Is there a question in the? I'm looking for this chat conversation. Good morning. Oh, so that was your question. Is your question, will presentation be shared? Yes. What type of documentation use? And yeah, well, a framework, we don't really use a framework for documentation. We use Atlassian. So we have a kind of SharePoint where we put all the documentation, and yeah. It also over there, it should be agile. I think the goal is not to have a framework. The goal is to have something which is workable. And we try to centralize everything at one place. It's been, all documentation is reviewed by 1 or 2 people. But in terms of format, we give some examples, but we at the beginning we were very strict, but now we allow that some people want to write 15 pages without any graph, and other people only putting some graphs. So we try to have a minimum, and it should be readable, but then we are not too strict in the format of the documentation. I don't know whether there are other questions. Maybe I have a question for you. If somebody here present in the call is using or is applying Agile. You, Heiko.
Yeah, as a bank, obviously, and I'm not very often in the project business myself, at least not as a project manager or so, but I would say that a good part of our software project within the bank are managed in an agile way. But as I said, I'm not quite sure if that's true for like core banking or for trading system project as well. but always when it's about like workflow or like automatization also, then it's in most cases I would say agile. Then, but myself, I'm not trained in, I'm not a project manager like trained in agile methods. I'm just I'm working. I'm then part of the project, yeah, and try to be agile. Yeah, sometimes better, sometimes not so good. Yeah. Okay.
Other people who have experience with Agile or?
Actually, in my team, we use some part or some methods of agile working. So, for example, for organizing our team, we use a Kanban board, and sometimes we do some retros. Yeah, looking back sessions. And yeah, that's what we do in our team. But in general, we have some initiatives in our bank to bring forward the topic working agile or being agile.
Thank you. Other questions? Well, if there are no questions, I think Valeria will send the presentation to all of you with my contact details, and thank you for attending. And I think there is one.
Thank you to you, Mathieu, to giving us the road to the as you said, to the mindset and to consider outside our banking scope. And it's actually an effective way of working with teams. And as you also mentioned in the beginning, where we're talking about iteration leadership, right? Because you involved everyone within a team, and everyone can bring their ideas, and there are no false ideas, and to the contrary, they bring you to think. So thank you for that insight, and for all of us to keep reminding us that collecting info can be done in a very active and fun way, if I may summarize it like this. So thank you for your learnings inside. I shared here with my colleague that I had the impression to start fresh with your presentation. So thank you very much again. And thank you for attending to our Spark. And we see each other on the 13th of October for next Spark with our Austrian member. Thank you again, and we see each other soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.